floor to any questions that you might have in terms of the presentation we've had this morning. And yes, sir.
I'm with Sustainable Development Media, and I have a very special interest in your presentation because in the early 1980s I met a Sri Lankan who was Puna Vignaracha, who was the Executive Secretary of the Society for International Development. Now, he already then was talking about alternative development strategies programs, and he was talking about sustainable livelihood approaches. And my question to you is, how did you manage to incorporate these sort of ideas that were quite revolutionary in those days, where the key was just development, but he said development was not enough. Now, he also was talking about biomass for fuel. He was talking already about alternative energy. He was involved with the first Vienna meeting on outer space because he was already interested through remote sensing, that is 1981, 25 years ago, to take inventory of the possibilities of doing biomass and biofuels. My question really is, how do you manage to incorporate this, and if you feel that actually Sri Lankan was a forerunner for sustainable development?
Mr. Vikramaratne, would you like to answer that?
Yes, I would. I don't know the specific work of the gentleman you mentioned, but I do know that we have been using, like I said, for 20 years. Sri Lanka is not a rich country, and oil has been very expensive for it all the time. So we have had an incentive to have fuel wood forests. The tea plantations themselves are organized to have more and more fuel wood forests. In fact, it is only about 30 years ago that they converted to oil, and they've gone back into making fuel wood and biomass energy sources. We are using more and more the topography of Sri Lanka lends itself to mini hydro schemes, so we are using those. We are using a lot of solar energy, and we are using now wind energy, because Sri Lanka is also, because its topography it rises from the plains very sharply into the hills, so it creates ideal wind conditions for windmills. So these are things that the country is doing. Does that answer your question, sir?
If I can just add one more comment. In terms of solar energy, today Sri Lanka is among the top 3 in terms of per capita consumption of solar energy in that part of the world, because we've converted into solar energy quite rapidly. So Sri Lanka does have a heritage of moving towards sustainable renewable energies. So.
Is it black box solar energy or photovoltaics?
Sorry?
Black box solar energy or photovoltaics?
Photovoltaics.
Photovoltaics.
Yes.
Do you produce the PV?
No, we import it. Okay. Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Sure.
Please.
Hi. Thanks for the very interesting presentation. I was doing some research, and obviously here at the UN, one of the things that we obviously hear in terms of Sri Lanka about the conflict. We had a report on children in armed conflict recently, and also given that at the UN, peace and security is like a major thing that we cover. I'd seen an article where Philip Morris was going to visit the Haley's group in Sri Lanka, but somehow canceled it. This was back in September. They were going to visit about their production of cigarette filters with Haley's. So I wonder how. I mean, the presentation is beautiful, and it's very clear. I guess I wanted to know how the ethical principles of Haley and participation in the Global Compact, if you feel it has any positive role in Sri Lanka in promoting peace and security, and also how this, I mean, it may seem like a small thing, how this production of cigarette filters is consistent with I think it said there's something in your website about environment and health and stuff like that. So I'd appreciate it.
I think you're asking several questions.
I can break them down.
Okay. Thank you for the cigarette filters. Take the first one. Cigarette filters. We sell activated carbon. We sell the best activated carbon for filters, and that is not only for cigarette filters, for all kinds of applications. The important thing is to take whatever that you want to take out from a given media by using specific targeted and carbon. So if you is that all right? I mean,
No, it's not for me to say it's all right or not. I just wanted to.
no.
give you
Is that
address.
answering your question?
Yes, it is. I might ask Mr. Kell if he, when you were near done, just whether
Right.
he thinks this, let's say, the cigarette issue has any role in the global compact. That would be a separate question.
Well, what we would not do is if somebody is interested in buying our product, we don't, unless we know for certain if it's a mainstream business and a very reputed business, we would not sell. It's not in our to produce a better quality filter. We will sell the carbon for it. As for what we do with the conflict, that's a more difficult question. Sri Lanka has had the conflict for 20 years, and Haley's has really been an anchor of stability in the south of Sri Lanka. Otherwise, you might have had even greater turbulence. So there are many companies which, not only Haley's but also other companies, who create a huge amount of stability within the country, and you should recognize that most of the communities of Sri Lanka live in the south of Sri Lanka, and the work that we do and the employment that we create, including the plantations, are ethnic Indian Tamils. So we run these plantations and run them peacefully. We've done so for the last 15 years. Okay.
So if I can just add a comment there. In terms of the activated carbon, Haley's are probably one of the top activated carbon manufacturers in the world. And there are many applications people buy the carbon for. So this is one of probably
It's a very small.
many applications. So we sell pretty much the carbon for it. In terms of the conflict situation, I think one of the great things about Haley's is it is truly a multi-ethnic company. Mr. Vikramatna already shared with you how the composition in terms of the plantation teams, both at management level, both at director level, and both at worker level, has an extremely good blend of all three ethnicities. And I must say, having worked in Sri Lankan multinationals and Sri Lankan and multinationals, what I do find is that organizations like this play a huge role in bringing about both camaraderie and understanding amongst peoples. And I think things could have been much worse if not for the robustness of our private and multinational organizations, because they bring about an ethnic harmony that is almost not comparable otherwise. So I hope that answers your question.
Can I also say a few
Yes,
words
sir.
about children?